What's happening, everyone? Happy Memorial Day. Shout out to everyone, all the veterans, everyone worth remembering in your lives, all your friends and family. So always a cool day. Got the day off of work. Hopefully you did some cool stuff, hung out with people who make you happy. How about that? For me though, actually I went out this morning, but for me, it's open mic. Today's open mic, and I'm hanging out with the Hex community. PulseChainians, the incentive, still can't get that one. Incentive people like incentive coin. Those. It's a Richard Hart project. If you did, cool. Say hi to the chat, and we'll get into it. Red Squirrel, what's happening? UFOs landed. That is true. I've seen an alien just now. I've seen 2 of them even. Maddie Allen, what's happening? Yeah, appreciate Maddie setting that stuff up. It was really cool. Being in Miami, got to meet a lot of new people, got to see a lot of familiar faces as well. So super cool meetup. Hex Miami was awesome. Had a good time at the Bitcoin conference as well. So appreciate it, man. Awesome swag too. I wore the swag the other day. Not wearing it today. Wearing this Hex shirt today, but I wore it the other day. Who else? That's in crypto. What's happening, man? Welcome. Carnival Games. We got Old Drippy. Old Drippy. Happy Monday to you, Old Drippy. I like that. A day of remembrance. That's true. Remembering all the people who've made an impact in your life and all the people who have sacrificed for a better world for us. Appreciate that. Ben says, I'm a veteran. I don't know what you're talking about, by the way. Those words do not compute. What is that? Was there something that happened? Warfield says, good vibes. Yeah. Hummet, did I meet you, Warfield? I just not remember you by name. I'm sure I remember you by face, but if we met, but by name, I'm sorry, man. You have to remind me. Very, very fun time though. Miami's awesome. What's up, Furu? Welcome. Without further ado, let me drop the link in the chat. I didn't even think about doing that. Invite. This is open mic, everyone. So basically, I'll have a few people on at one time, and if we have more, I'll rotate through. We'll see how many we have. Link is in the chat if you feel so inclined. If I don't know you or haven't met you before, I'll just ask you to turn your camera on for accountability purposes. Yes, welcome, whoever wants to jump on. Without further ado, Dixon Piper, welcome back to the show, man.
Welcome. How's it going, guys? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. The last rodeo.
Mic.
No, your mic's good. So you know what? I'm gonna start off by saying that. I've had you on stream a couple times before, and you've taught me a few different things in the last year and a half since I've been streaming. Splitting and buying pressure was always a really thing that stuck with me. That kind of mental model, and then you need to be either funny or informative on your media presence, on Twitter or otherwise. That's why people want to follow you. That's how you grow a following. And then I loved, again, this is everyone, there's eHex, pHex debate, whatever. Have an open mind. This is my style. I'm a man of principles. Even though I may not agree with Dixon on many things, I agree with him on a lot of stuff, but maybe I don't agree with everything. I want to hear everything. I want to hear, both sides. I want to know what's going on in order to make a better decision and to figure out what you believe and what's good for you in your situation. So I like having these open, honest conversations, objective, looking at things. And Dixon, if this is your last rodeo, or you're taking a break or otherwise, I appreciate you being here just to talk us through it.
Yep. Cool. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So with that, do you want to talk about the eHex pHex? Like, do you want to kind of frame it as?
I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, that's probably what a lot of people are interested in too. Do you want to start from the beginning of like, how did you think, what is your thinking going into it, and why did you kind of formulate, this investment hypothesis through it?
So I guess if anybody's going to want to have more information or more context what we're about to talk about, you can go back and look at one of my tweets from, 3 days ago, where I basically just said, I'm only going to be buying pHex. I personally swapped my eHex for pHex. Any friend, I tell the same. Any person in the future, I will tell the same. And I'm personally just less bullish if both of them had a parity or close to parity I'm less bullish on both of them. So that's my stance on it. And the thing is, like, yeah, I got a lot of outrage. Motley made a post similar. It got a lot of outrage. It's funny because we actually thought we would be the majority here, and it turns out we're actually the minority. But I mean, the thing is, you see so much outrage about it. But the thing is, everybody wants to pick at little snippets of what Richard Hart has to say about things. But the one that holds the most weight is the community will decide the values, not Richard, not but the community. So how are we? This was me signaling my position. You know, how are we? How is the community supposed to find the value if the people who's let's just admit, like, there's some people that appreciate what I have to say. You know, not everybody, but there's a lot of people that appreciate what I have to say. So if I shouldn't voice my opinion on that, then what am I doing here? You know, like, what's the point of me being on Twitter if the only thing I should say is what falls in line with people, you know? And in my opinion, I mean, this might be a little narcissistic, but in my opinion, I feel my opinion should hold more weight because I've been right about 90% of things since the start of the bear market, you know? I even said, hey, I'm not sacrificing for PulseX because I'm going to get a better deal when it opens up. I got destroyed for saying that stuff, you know. I think contrarian a lot of the times, and so it's my opinion that my views should hold a little bit more weight than people who are constantly wrong. Not saying that I'm not going to be right on this, but people should respect my views and my opinion. So yeah, I don't have to be right here, and the eHex side does not have to be right or wrong either. But for me not to voice my opinion or my stance and my direction seems kind of silly to me. So it just comes down to a point of, why am I on social media anymore if my views that are generally oftentimes the right ones not welcomed, you know? So it's like, so yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of points you can pick apart that I'm not. My biggest thing is, I just think when we're going to keep both of them alive, I think PulseChain will then outperform both of them. And I am personally in this market to make money. That's it. I don't need to be in the community. I don't need any of this stuff. I don't need to go doing live streams. I like talking to you. I think you're a pretty good guy, you know, but that was my exact stance, is if they're both going to stay around. I mean, you watch the ratio, and here's the thing. On the eHex side, everybody has a different reason for why they support the eHex. The narratives are all over the place, but the people that are on the I like pHex side, their ideas are pretty much aligned in the same. And it's not like me and Motley and people had conversations about this. I haven't talked to Motley in 2.5 months, and we both have the same views and opinions. So it's not like we're in some secret lair discussing strategy on this. Like, no, we just coincidentally come to the same opinions a lot. But you are for both of them, so let's hear your view on why you like both of them, and we can have like a honest, like, respectable discourse about this, you know?
Yeah. I mean, well, I had a couple of follow-up questions on what you said as well, but I'll just briefly go through. I think, you know, I think in my opinion, I've said this the last week or so. I haven't commented much on it, but I think I've never imagined. I think what maybe sums it up. I've never imagined a world without eHex. And, you know, I've said if Richard comes on stream and says, hey, it's a migration, then it's a migration. But until then, like, that's kind of like my bar of like, okay, then I'll kind of switch my mindset. Then I'll try to figure out, like, you know, what's going to happen to all the wells they're holding and all that stuff too. There's so many points for it being a benefit and for it not being a benefit. Onboarding is, like, clearly confusing, and that narrative needs to be fixed as well. But I just think that eHex being around is one of those. I think the market, and I don't want to say this like in a shallow way, but I think the market will decide one way or another. And to me, the market looks like eHex being around means that there is longevity on these projects that Richard's created. There is this ability for them to, hey, we have it on another chain, but also, you know, a lot of people don't even know about PulseChain. A lot of people, a lot of the whales, they're staking 15 years. I don't even know if Godwell knows about PulseChain, or nor would he care about PulseChain. So I just think the economic energy is going to keep eHex alive. If I had to bet, like today, again, not hearing Richard, we haven't seen his live stream, all this stuff. Maybe he'll address it. Maybe he'll, put the nail in the coffin of or in it, or maybe he'll say, nope, it's not a migration. Actually, I will say the only interaction I've had with him, funny enough, I don't know how this even came about, but last year at the Hex conference, that was the question I asked him. And I think me and Tendies, we were talking about in the green room, and we were asking this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask Arias a question. I get asked one question, and I asked him, should we think about it as a migration? I believe, I'm gonna have to look up the clip. I have it on the channel somewhere. I think I asked him, and his first reaction was like, no, don't think about it like a migration, something like that. But again, I don't want to quote that because I haven't looked at the clip for a while, but that kind of stuck with me as well. And maybe that was a reason, I can't
I just want to throw something in before I forget it real quick. Okay.
Yeah. Go for it.
It's my opinion that Richard will not come out and give anybody a definite answer. I think when Richard does live stream or Richard does make a video, I believe he's going to say the exact same things he's been saying, that, yeah, sure, I'd like to see all Hex valuable. But also I want the community to decide. I do understand why he is staying away. And like the main reason I see why he's staying out of this is because there's been so many people dumping their economic energy into eHex that him making a tweet could destroy many, many people now. I saw one guy that traded his entire PLS and PLSX SAG for discounted eHex. If Richard comes out and makes a tweet now and liquidity dries up, that guy's wrecked. That guy's giga wrecked, So there's like Sami, he tried to be a contrarian and started buying eHex at 3.5 cents. I think Sami's right a lot. Sami's right way more than other crypto influencers and stuff. He's pretty good at these markets, but I do think he's going to be wrong here. He's down 80% in 4 days from where he was buying. And the thing is, if Richard does come out with a tweet, that basically just seals his death, that he made the wrong bet, metaphorically, of course. But so I don't think that's why I think Richard is not going to come out and give a clear, like, hey, you quit supporting that, you support this. I don't think that will ever happen out of his mouth. But there was one tweet that I wanted to see. Some dude said, what about the narrative that everyone was saying pre-fork that Hex was one of the two chains, and to get a pump for exit liquidity, then the fork happens and you dump eHex down and promote the abandonment theory? I've been saying since I came to Twitter, I'm bearish on eHex. I'm bearish on eHex. Notice when I made a losing bet with Eric Wall, I specifically said the price of pHex, not even both hexes combined. So I could have been a smarter human being and combined both of them. But I was signaling a year and a half ago that I think the pHex is going to perform better. So you're talking to other people. You're not talking to me, idiot. Okay, go on with your side.
Well, I wanted to ask this part of the question too, is as the PulseX pull tab I got pulled up here, there's $11 million liquidity. Does that make you think anything different? Is that a factor in eHex going away? You think there'll always just be a huge premium, but the liquidity bonding, it's hard to ignore, isn't it?
I am in the belief that the only reason people come to crypto are mad gains. I don't think Hex survives on a chain without mad gains, because why would somebody buy it then? People don't care about the yield when they're coming in to buy for mad gains. You get them in with the mad gains, then they start caring about the code and the community and the yield. But they're here for the mad gains. You have to advertise what people are here for. So like, let's just work it backwards a little bit. Like, so you like the eHex side. There's a lot of cases for it. Why don't you like ETH POW? Or sorry, Hex POW. Why don't you like that one?
Well, yeah, ETH fair, ETH POW. That was not a Richard product. No community.
But it's the same code.
Right. I don't think I mean, so the point would be the code. Are you saying the code matter? It doesn't matter as much.
Both of our answers are going to come the same here. The value is in the community, not the code. Wouldn't you agree with that? And that's why Hex on POW and Hex on Fair have a total of $11 of trading volume a day. because the community is not there. Wouldn't you agree with that? So right there, right then and there, we just trashed the Hex is going to work on Ethereum because it's the same code. We already win that side of the debate. So now we can say Hex on Ethereum is going to survive and thrive because the community is signaling they're going to stay there. That can happen. I don't think it will long term, but that can happen. And that's the side that you're on right now. But go ahead.
No, I just wanted on that. I think the only question I can get from that I haven't got a good answer to, that maybe you have, is why is it not in the best interest to have both? Like, why you think
price charts.
Not having eHex, the pHex
price
will go
charts.
up even more? But like, why not have both?
Most people through this fork believed that their value was going to get doubled. That was never, ever, ever going to happen. Their coins were going to get doubled, but the value was going to get cut in half. So we could have, like, if you want to strip this down to like the most basic way, there's some people that want one expensive hex or two hexes worth half as much as what the one would be. That's really what it's coming down to. And the thing is, the people that are on the one hex signaling side, the thing about it is we want a good price chart. And if, let's just do moon math here. Where do we think, if none of this happened, where was Hex going in its second cycle? $1? Let's just say $1, okay? Sure. If Hex was going to $1 with one chain, it is not going to $1 on two chains. It is going to do half because there's double the sell pressure. You doubled the supply, you're doubling the dump, you're not doubling the buy pressure. So whatever one token was going to do, two are going to do half. That makes for a shit chart. That makes for the eHex side probably, and this is speculation, but my speculation's been better than most others in this market. I hate being a narcissist, but I have to, it's unfortunate. But let's just say we're going to use the baseline that the one was going to go to $1. I don't think the E side goes to $1 then. Why? Because all of the retail buying is going to come in on the Pulse side, because retail buying, who are retail buyers? People with 100, 500, 1,000, 2,000 bucks. They cannot buy on the ETH network anymore. They can't do it. Who are all these little locusts in the Hex cult-like community on Twitter getting all this reach for the community? Retail buyers that started with $500, $1,000, $2,000. So to me, it's obvious that over time, the community is going to be more positive towards the pHex side. And can the eHex side have a value? Yeah, it can. If it's 50% off, it might be. If it's 10% off, it might be. But I don't want to play that game. I'm here to make money. And all I see about speculating on the eHex side is more risk with no more upside. So like, let's just break it down this way. Do you think eHex could be worth more than pHex?
My current thinking is pHex will have a premium. That's my current thinking. I don't know how big it'll be. I don't know if it'll be 50% or 10%, but I think it'll have
so we both agree that the chance of eHex ever being worth more is very, very, very slim. And if it is worth more, it's almost like an arbitrage more, like 5% or 10%, but it's never going to be mad gains more than the pHex side. I think we could both agree on that.
Sure.
But there is a chance that it's not worth much at all, because the community, what happened? You have to understand what happened in the Hex POW, Hex Fair situation debacle. This isn't casting stones. I just have to tell how the event went down. There was people similar to like Jimrat showing people how to get involved with Hex POW and how to provide liquidity and everything. And these are smaller retail investors that want to get more coins for cheaper. Okay, I guess, but whatever. When the community consensus was not on Hex POW, you have whales that will just use that as exit liquidity, and they have way more money to sell that down than could ever come in off retail buying. because they don't appreciate and they don't respect and they don't value that chain. If they don't value it, it doesn't work. Like none of this crypto works if people don't value what they have. And the unfortunate part of making a copy is that from day one, there was always going to be people that didn't value one side or the other. So there's probably, in your case, there's probably people that do not value their pHex side. And that's why we have both of these coins bleeding out verse. It's not the US dollar. I don't care about US dollar. I don't even look at the US dollar values now. What matters is the ratio to PulseChain, because the PulseChain token is our new base layer. Basically, in the last bull market, when I own Hex, I would never make a move in the market if I was going to lose ETH value. And I'm operating this market the exact same, but using PulseChain as the new base layer instead of Hex. When both of those, and people are bickering and arguing, there's people with their PulseChain selling it to buy the discount on eHex, or there's people dumping eHex, it's not good for the ratio versus PulseChain. It was up at 180 some per pulse. It's down to 115 per pulse. It was down to 95 per pulse. So I'm going to stay on the fastest horse. And for the entire bear market, I beated the horn and beat the drum of Hex. You know, since I started my channel at the top of the bear market, I said Hex probably going down. Anytime under 5 cents is a buy. I was saying this up at 25 cents. I was saying anytime under 5 cents is a buy. People thought that was crazy. And I wasn't saying this to FUD people out of their bags. I was saying it because we need more optimism in the market about the positivity of buying the bottom and having a community down there at the bottom. Like, what's the difference between the Hex community and every other community in crypto? We're the only ones left after the bear market. You know, you go into other communities, they're ghost towns at the bottom of a bear market. We are here at the bottom bear market because a big part of our community understands the value of buying at bottom because they're more educated than the rest of crypto people. And I see the eHex pHex side the same way. Like if I'm a person that has been supporting Hex through all the shenanigans of the outrage marketing, 2 years of delays and PulseChain, like for somebody who's been right about 90% of the speculation that's came down, like shouldn't people want to look at my opinion and say, oh wow, this guy's about to just flip on Hex like that when he's been a rabid supporter for multiple years since the start? Like, and another thing would be ask this: how many people that were in the AA lobby, were you in the AA lobby? Were you around then?
I was definitely around then. I'm trying to think about. Okay. I can't remember.
My question to other people would be like, if for anybody that was in the AA lobby, who owns more Hex now than what they got out of the AA lobby? Me. How many people do you think in the Hex ecosystem can say that? Probably not very many. So like, why would my view not matter as much? I obviously believe in the system if I own more now than I did back then. Not a lot of people can say that. This guy says Dixon was a buyer of eHex at 13 cents. Yeah, dummy. It went to 18 cents and then we didn't get a PulseChain mainnet, so I sold. And I said this in live streams, I'm not going to carry eHex at 13 cents when we don't have a mainnet and it's going to go down more. So duh. It's an obviously trade. I don't have to buy something and just hold it for the rest of my life.
I just want to get these guys in real quick, and then I have one other follow-up too. But welcome to the show, Lit. His life is awesome.
Up, bro?
How's it go? And Freddie Quotes, what's happening, man?
Hey, how's it going, brother? I have two quick things right off the top of my head that I'd like to reply to Dixon. I agree with you on most things, and I definitely hold you in a very high regard. One thing that you just said is complete bullshit. Anybody who went into the AA likely doesn't have more Hex than then. That's a crock of shit, man, because anybody who went into the AA early was likely a believer. And you can go back and check these addresses. Most of those people stake long term. So if you want to look at the numbers from the AA, correct me if I'm wrong, most of those were long-term holders. So anyone who bought in the AA and stake have been earning more Hex through their T-shares. So, I mean, if you want to be specific on maybe they're not buying anymore, I would be able to buy that. But the argument that, you know, anyone who went into the AA doesn't have more Hex.
I wasn't putting a percentage of people. I'm saying there's probably a lot of people who weren't believers. Yes, there's people that own more hex. I wasn't putting a certain percentage on it.
And then real quick, the other thing you said was that, well, why didn't everyone do that with hex on the ETH POW network? Well, that's a weak argument. And again, I agree with pretty much everything you're saying, except the fact that, man, everybody left that ETH network. It wasn't just our community. Like, everyone left that network to go to the new ETH, right? The ETH 2.0. So that, I'm just nitpicking. But, people...
So what if people slowly but surely leave the ETH and the ratio just bleeds out? What happens there? I'm not saying it will happen, but the chance is more likely.
Yeah. It's like Richard says, man. It's like the parade of imaginary horribles. Like, do we want to get into that? What if?
That doesn't make sense there, though. This is reality. This is realistically what could happen.
What, that everyone's going to leave ETH and come to PulseChain? That's reality? That everyone's going to leave that network?
Yes, it 100% is reality. That it could happen, and it's more likely to happen than not, because it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy of the commons, and you can't fight tragedy of the commons. It's very, very hard to fight it.
You don't think that if everyone is leaving the ETH network in droves, that Vitalik wouldn't do something to stop that?
People, not ETH people.
I am ready to go fishing. I literally just, it's funny. I was only going to jump in for 2 seconds because high tide is in like an hour and a half. And I was walking, I'm not even lying. I was walking downstairs to get my fishing pole, and I heard him say like the proof of work network. And I was like, well, man, come on. You got better points than that.
No, it's perfectly relevant, though. It's 100% relevant.
No, I don't think that you can compare ETH 2.0 and people leaving ETH 2.0 right now for PulseChain for them not doing more of it.
The code is all that. The people that say it's the same code, that 100% destroys that argument. Period.
That's a weak, dude. That's such a weak argument, though, brother. Because everyone is still using the Ethereum network. It's only us that are jumping over specifically because of PulseChain. So to say that
we could go over there because it's the same code and we don't.
Right. But nobody else uses it either.
I understand that, but it's the same code over there. So all I'm using that is, I'm using that for one of 7 examples of that destroys it's the same code narrative. If it's supposed to have value because the code is the same, ETH POW and Fair destroy that because they have 0 value.
I just want to give Lit a chance to if you want to jump in. I have another question for follow up with Rick Dixon as well. But yeah, Lit, you got anything?
Yeah. So I appreciate what y'all are saying, and what Dixon is saying is pretty identical to what Identity Block was saying a long time ago. He was saying that we're going to go below SAC. He's a contrarian. He said a lot of unpopular opinions that got the community to really smash on him. And really, he's just trying to look ahead of the curve and see what's happening and try to give the best he can. But when it's unpopular, people just destroy it. So I really get what you're saying, how like, why am I on socials trying to share the best I can if people just squash me for it? I believe in discourse. I believe we need to have contrarians. I believe we need to have moon boys and people who FUD. And there's a healthy balance. But that being said, like, I just want y'all to know I appreciate both sides. Understanding that, it's important to look at Ethereum as a whole and understand the actual volume on Ethereum. There's nothing that big. Nothing is as big as Ethereum. So allowing eHex to tank too hard on Ethereum, I don't think it's a good look for our community as a whole. But at the same time, I understand the value being sucked over to pHex for everyone in our community is like a huge opportunity. A lot of people from where I stand, a lot of my channel OGs, a lot of my new people, they feel like it's a fresh beginning. It's like a new start where they can get in early and they miss the big hex run. So a lot of people, even if it went way up to 55 cents and back down to 1, I have watched the community sentiment change. Do you guys remember like when we were first pumping, when hex hit 5 cents all-time high, and then it was 7, Then it was 9. Next thing you know, we're at 15 cents. Do you guys remember that time where we skyrocketed all the way up to 40, 50 cents? Every person I asked, can you imagine if Hex was 1 cent? What would you do? Every single person in this community said, I would ape my whole bag. I would go all in. And guess what, y'all? We're at 1 cent Hex now, and the sentiment changed. That is not what we see happening. And we have to look at the duplicate coin. We have to look at the economic energy. And I want to use other charts as examples. I don't want to name any, but I want you to look at the empirical data on the ETH chart from other people who have rugged liquidity on the ETH side to move the economic power to the PulseChain side. There is a psychological impact of that, okay? And it is detrimental. It is hardcore destructive as far as trust. If you trust a founder who built a project and they rug the liquidity on ETH, even if they say, oh, we need to move everything here, this is where the action's at, we're actually designed for PulseChain. Even if they tell you, this is what I want to do, this is the best thing for us, there's something inherent in knowing that those founders rugged the liquidity on ETH and they didn't care anymore. And now they're on PulseChain. I feel like as a coach, to build trust in the community, if people are going to put their money into your project and trust you on Ethereum, and then we have a hard fork, now we're on PulseChain, there has to be a level of respect for their devotion. And I feel the best way a founder can respect someone on Ethereum is don't rug the liquidity. Let anyone who's there still have that volume and liquidity there. And what happens if the founder pulls liquidity and abandons that project is it sets the implications that what if they do that over here? They're willing to do it there. What if they do that over here? So the way I see it, eHex is very important to keep alive. And it tanked totally, but there's reason for that. The same way that Hex pumped when we had PulseChain, it was because the narrative was get your copy. You need to buy Hex now for the snapshot. Get your copy. You guys remember that time where everyone is like, you need to buy Hex right now because we're going to hard fork. That was the narrative that made Hex freaking 10,000x. All the new people are like, oh my God, a new chain. I need to get my copy of Hex. I need to get a bag. And it created a buy wall of pressure that absolutely moonrunned us, just out of control. So if you focus on all that stuff and realize like, okay, we have a narrative, there's trust on the biggest volume chain in the whole world. That is important. We don't want our founder to abandon that. We really don't, because it allows this gaping hole in the integrity of a project that, well, okay, what, you just start your new chain and you abandon that? I feel like wherever eHex is, there will be a point where, look, don't quote me on this, it's not financial advice, but I think there's a point where it will come back. And we're in pain right now. There's a new chain, there's a new narrative, everyone's moving over. And to be honest, the way I see this game playing out right now, people have launch fatigue. They have launch fatigue. There's too many projects launching. People cannot focus on all the new meme coins, the new potential blue chips. There's an overwhelm of stuff happening and people's brains are shutting down. And I think the impact is they're just trying to get their PLS bag and their PLSX bag. They're just trying to get those on lock. They want to know they get a dip, they can make a bigger bag. I feel like they're trying to set that play up. And that's why Hex hasn't run yet, because they can't even focus on Hex yet for the most part. They're still trying to figure out Pulse and PulseX. So I feel like these two projects do matter, and we should not abandon the ETH side, because the psychological implications of and fear of like, well, hey, if y'all abandon that, what about this new one? Is there going to be a point where a new thing happens and then we leave that? So that's just my thoughts on it personally. But ultimately, I feel like the whales will react. And I want y'all to know, like, there's a lot of whales locked into that side. So there is a huge vested interest to keep it pumping. And Y'all know crypto. That stuff tanks. We're just we're hurting right now. But if it starts pumping again, like watch sentiment change overnight.
Yeah, Dixon, you want to respond to that? And I got a question to follow up after that as well.
Yeah, I could make like he was saying that I could make the same argument that it would actually be, he wants the hex, he wants the ETH side to stay alive because it wouldn't be a good look. I can also make the exact same argument that it wouldn't be a good look, that the chart does not perform as good. What's the most important thing in crypto? Good charts. What does every crypto that's had more than one cycle of success have in common? New all-time highs. I think the chance of getting a new all-time high when the chains are split is way less.
Agreed.
Substantially less.
Because you split the economic energy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're all in agreement on that. But like, how many coins in the history of crypto have gone on to make a new all-time high in their next cycle? I can probably count them all on one hand. Doge, and and it's even more important. How many have made a new all-time high versus Bitcoin value? Almost none. ETH hasn't even done that. We definitely aren't doing that with two chains, but let's just stay on USD terms for the sake of argument. So it doesn't make a new all-time high. What is the biggest bullish case for Bitcoin is it's safer to buy now because it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that, oh, everybody's just 100% sold on these 4-year cycles now, that we're going to go down. Oh, we're going to make a new all-time high, so may as well buy here. We're going to go down. Well, we're going to make a new all-time high, so everybody's buying here. If it doesn't make a new all-time high, you lose all that trust and confidence in your market. So that's one reason why I'm for one price chart that's one really good price chart.
But can you also say that if you had two price charts that do really well, wouldn't that be even more advantage?
If they could do really well, but I don't think they will do really well together. And the thing, like, yes, they like, we're all in agreement that these things are all going to go up in USD value. Like, their eHex is still going to be worth more than a penny. Like, that's not my argument. My argument is they will go down versus PulseChain. In PulseChain value, there's a high likelihood that they will go down if there's two of them. So in my case, when I'm here for the money, when every single person getting into crypto is here for the money, why would we buy something that is a very high chance of not outperforming the other thing? That's my case.
So if Richard came out and said, hey guys, like eHex, nothing's changed, like it's not a migration, blah, blah, blah. If he came out and said that,
I would simply just own Pulse. Like that's my stance. Like, I don't care what Richard says. I would simply just own Pulse because Pulse has such a bright future. How this launched and the attention it's getting is incredible, dude. Like, I'm so bullish on PulseChain right now. It's insane. And that's coming from a person that owns more hex than I've ever owned before. So like, I feel like that opinion should hold a little bit more weight. I'm still holding this hex thinking, oh, the only reason I am holding it still is because it looks like the ratio is going to keep going against eHex. Unfortunately, for the people buying it, like, that's what it looks like to me. Do I have conviction of that? No, I don't. That's my speculation.
So what is the benefit of, why not silently, kind of exit eHex? What benefit is
that's fine. I can, but we go back to the exact same point. Why am I here on Twitter? Why do I have a following? If people care what I have to say, should I just not say it? It comes right back to that. Again, I hate being narcissistic, but I almost have to. I've been right way more than other people in crypto. And so there's people that value what I have to say. Should I not tell them what I'm thinking? And honestly, I didn't want to have this conversation, period. I was hoping that this would all just work itself out. I didn't tweet for 6 days. I didn't tweet for the entire Pulse launch. I was just hoping that people would find the value on their own, but it became such a big topic on Twitter. Before I said anything, it became a big topic. And that's why, well, it's already a topic. Everybody's talking about it. Well, I better put some realistic sense into it. This is my view. So that's the only reason I did come out and say anything. But like, to your defense, I agree. I don't know if what I'm saying is helping. And that's why I'm probably just going to get off Twitter, because there's a chance what I'm saying isn't helping. It's easier just to have only optimistic talk on there, I guess,
I mean, it's unfortunate for sure. I think maybe a lot of people kind of read into this as kind of, like a whale games. Oh, maybe they're thinking that people who want eHex to go away, it's because, they already sold or they're trying to make money off of it somehow. And is this literally like, you're coming out in order to, because you want to be true to yourself of like what you believe and your stance on things?
It's very obvious. It's very obvious. Like that I'm shilling pHex because I bought pHex. Sure. You know who's shilling eHex? People who bought eHex. Everybody is talking in their own best interest on crypto, dude. Sami bought a crap. Sami bought a big old bag of eHex at 3 cents and 2 cents and 1 cent. And I got to give it to Sami. At least when he says something, I bet you the guy's actually doing it. Most people are saying, I'm buying today. They aren't buying. Sami's probably buying, so he believes in what he's saying. But at the end of the time, Sami will make a video that says, these eHex guys are coping. It's like, dude, you're the one that's down 80% and you're talking about cope right now. Like that's the thing. All I'm getting at is everybody is speaking their own book. It's obvious, but it's the unfortunate part here is there is going to be winners and losers here probably. And the thing is the pHex people, so much as I hate to say it, probably aren't going to be the losers because they still have all their eHex stakes. So if it does work out, they have their eHex stakes. They are just making a case that they also believe that they don't want their eHex stakes to be worth anything, and they want their P side to be worth double what things are now. They would rather have one token worth more than two worth half. And that's like when you break it down, like that's really the debate we're having is, do you want one worth more or two worth half? And to me, on the eHex side, there's many different narratives that like one, it's the code is the same. I think we've disproved that one. Like the community is what matters, not the code for it to have a long-term future. And that's the only reason I ever did bring up the POW and the fair side is because why don't they work? Because the community doesn't accept them. Well, I personally don't like when the community likes two different ones still. And that's why I just made the simple statement, which maybe I shouldn't be saying these things, that the Pulse is probably the play if we have to sit here and support two different chains. And like, I understand from like Gary Funding Jim's side, he's like, well, I'm going to bring all my onboards to eHex and keep that system alive. Like that's honorable. That's I admire Gary's ability to build bridges, that's great, but you can't fight tragedy of the commons, man. There's a higher likelihood, like we can't speak in certainties here. No side can speak in certainties here. But in my opinion, it's more likely, just from who I talk to and who I see, it's more likely people do not value their E side as much as their P side. And I want to be on the side that people value more. And if it's split down the middle, I don't want to be involved. Like that's really my case right now.
Well, speaking of Efren Sami, welcome to the stream. Just kidding, CryptoCom. How's it go?
What's going on? Hey guys.
What's up, bros?
Justin, I think Dixon wrapped. I think that's really. I think again, that's what I want to get to here. Is what is the heart of the debate? Dixon, it sounds like you laid it out as: do you want two hexes, or do you? I mean, now you're saying PulseChain could be an option as well. Yeah. And if you can't have, and your perspective is, if there's not one hex, you would just rather put your economic energy into Pulse.
Because I'm extremely bullish on PulseChain. Extremely.
I have a question, y'all. This is a new experiment. We forked the chain. We have multiple tokens in the ecosystem now. And anyone who's a hex OG, that's not the game flipped. They flipped the script. What if when everyone first heard about hex, there was 3 or 4 options of coins? The economic energy would be all over the place. Everyone only had hex. It was only one smart contract on ETH, and every single piece of economic energy was funneled to one point. Now we've spread to multiple points. You know that Plinko game on Price is Right where you drop the coin and it bounces around? There's all these different slots where money can end up. But if it's all funneled to one, everything's going to end up there. So how this, I think that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing that there's now multiple options for the community's money to end up, not to mention all the projects that have launched, okay, which are pulling economic energy in all different ways. So how do you think Hex would have done if there was more than one option when it first launched?
That was good. I mean, that's my answer. Not as good.
Exactly. So it's up to the community consensus to understand, where do I actually put my money? And I see your point. If there's all this economic energy being spread to different areas, I just want to go into Pulse, the native gas coin, which is the clear play long term. I totally get that.
Ethereum people are buying. Like, let's put it this way. Also, so like I don't mean to. I'm not trying to poop on Funding Jim. I'm using him as an example because he can take it. Like, he wants to be a bridge builder and stay on the Ethereum side to onboard Ethereans. We've had 3 years to do that. I don't care. Like, I personally don't care about the gatekeeping. I don't care that Hex is on page 3 of CoinMarketCap. That's one of the least things I could ever care about. But you do go look at Uniswap, and there's a big banner when you go to trade Hex. This is not on any centralized exchanges, and this coin does not get traded often on Uniswap. What? We sat there, we made Uniswap. I was there. We made all the volume on Uniswap for 6 months. People wouldn't be using Uniswap if it was not for Hex at the start of the day, period. It was not getting used. So we make them. We're on page 1 of their uniswap.info for 3 years, and they have banners. It's obviously that nobody wants to support our stuff over on Ethereum. But you know what Ethereans do? I've seen dozens of tweets from people with .eth Twitter handles that said, holy cow, I just swapped 15 ETH for X amount of PulseX or PulseChain, and I only paid 3 cents in gas. And then you go look through the comments of that guy's tweet, and there'll be another .eth guy that puts, really? Where? And there's dozens of these that I found. And I don't scroll through Twitter that much, especially like the people that I don't follow. I don't scroll through Twitter that much, and I'm finding stuff like this. It's very obvious to me that PulseChain is the vampire. Not having ETH sitting or not having eHex sitting over there is not a vampire. No one cares. No one on Ethereum cares about eHex except us. The vampire is PulseChain because it's actually bringing Ethereum people into the ecosystem. So here's what we need to do. I believe that the message needs aligned. The message needs aligned that, hey, we're going to PulseChain, and everybody needs directed to pulseburn.com, not Richard's websites. This guy, whoever built this, is way better than Richard at building websites. But everybody needs directed to pulsechain.com or pulseburn.com. And what do you see at the top of PulseBurn? The Hex price. It's like that website portrays Hex as like the premium asset.
So I like this debate you guys are having a lot, and I've been running sort of my own experiments, and so I'm super neutral. I'm in the middle on the pHex eHex debate. I don't think I've picked any side here. Like, I don't prefer pHex, I don't prefer eHex. I'm still on both of the chains, still doing everything on both chains, but I'm still kind of twinkling into, like, slowly into PulseChain, because I think many people are sort of rushing in. Like, I'm not really too sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen a lot of people maybe dumping some eHex to get into PulseChain. So what I've sort of been doing is I want to run experiments. So instead of just like having these speculations saying, well, maybe eHex can do this or pHex can do this or any of the other derivatives, I've been taking some HSIs both from the Pulse chain and from the Ethereum chain. I've been taking some. My sort of niche is I really like Icosa and Hedron. So I've been doing a lot of Icosa and Hedron stuff on the both chains, and those are both correlated to like eHex and pHex, right? So I'm guessing whichever hex on whichever chain does better, the derivatives on that chain, I would assume, would probably do better as well. Like, not financial advice or anything, but sort of what I've been doing is I've been running a whole bunch of experiments. So I've gotten a bunch of HSIs. I've built a bunch of stakes. Is it cool if I share my screen, Max?
Yeah, go for it. I was going to say that has been the messiest part of the whole thing, is not just, I don't pay attention much to the EX pHex part. It's just like there's pIcosa, there's pHedron, there's P all this stuff. There's projects that the copies don't do anything on PulseChain. They're going to relaunch, like fiat and stuff too. And it's just like that part is the onboarding struggle of everything that I could see right now.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So here what I have is in terms of pHex, eHex, this is an HSI that I sort of laid out. I have like a theoretical price of Hedron that I would have paid, a price of Hedron that I actually paid. I have it sort of documented here. And then what we're going to compare is I have both of these on the Ethereum and PulseChain, and we're just going to wait for this timer to end up, and we're going to see which one outperforms which. Now, in terms of Icosa and Hedron, because I see a lot of eHex, pHex sort of stuff, but in terms of pIcosa, eIcosa, I'd like to like maybe shed some light on that. So what I've been doing is I've built a few comparisons. So what I actually did is I took on my channel, I have, let's say like 500 USD. So a few days ago, the ratio was 2-to-1. So just like how we're seeing eHex a little bit undervalued relative to pHex, we're also seeing eIcosa is around, like, you could get 2 eIcosas for 1 pIcosa basically. So what that means is that if you have $500 or $1,000, you can get 2 times as many endpoints on the Ethereum chain versus the Pulse chain, right? So I built a little comparison here, just comparing those two like stakes equal US dollar amount, and then we're gonna price everything in Wrap Pulse because like we were talking about before, I think Wrap, like you were saying, I think Wrap Pulse is the king. I'm extremely bullish on Pulse chain as well. So I think that's the token that you'd probably want to accumulate a lot of, considering, I mean, Icosa has been out for a long time. Hex has been out for a long time. I mean, lots of people didn't get the opportunity to sacrifice for Pulse chain. So if you could, I think pricing these things in Wrap Pulse, seeing where your economic energy goes the farthest, that's sort of what I'm building on my channel. And yeah, so I'm trying to speculate. I'm not really doing anything. I'm not ratio trading one chain for another chain, but here just gonna build some stuff and figure out with time which chain or which hex or which Icosa or which form of whichever token does the best over time. But I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, right? Because we're seeing Sami's perspective, and then I think it was Funding Jim's perspective on Twitter and stuff. And I've seen both sides, and I understand both sides perfectly. I can see both sides of the argument perfectly, but I think that Metcalfe's law and network adoption is one of the most important things. And until we see an easier way, like maybe Power City and their PortalX multi-chain bridge swap, maybe once we get easier ways to onboard into Pulse chain, we'll have more network adoption. But for right now, like lots of people that I try and get onboarded, we've seen this argument a lot, but it's hard to get onto Pulse chain, and it's hard to get Pulse chain in the first place. So maybe for right now, that means that network adoption and Metcalfe's law on the Ethereum coins, maybe that they outperform the Pulse chain side, but on a long enough time frame, maybe the Pulse chain side tokens have the more network adoption because maybe they have the greater value proposition with like the fees and the newer network and all that stuff. So
I'd like to add something to what he's saying. At the start of what he was saying, where he basically just got his copies over and he's just playing his copies however they turn out, which he's basically in a no-lose scenario. He's going to have 2 worth half or 1 worth more, at the end of the day. So the copy people are basically in the safe zone. The only people that have risk are myself, who's making a bet on the P side, and people who are making a bet on the E side. But out of those 2, it's unfortunate there is going to be a winner and a loser. You know who's not going to be a loser in this is Kong, because he's gonna win either way. Yeah, you could have had a strategy to buy the pHex on a discount or buy the eHex on a discount or swap everything into pHex. Like that is speculation. But what's not speculation is knowing that whichever way it goes, he's going to be good. So that's just one thing I wanted to add to that. That
yeah.
The biggest argument is obviously the people who put their money where their mouths are at the moment. Like Sami bought eHex, he's shouting the eHex train. I bought pHex, I'm shouting the pHex train. We're both making cases. But the one person that can't get her, somebody that did get their copies over. And I see a lot of people that are pissed off about the price being down so much because they say that, oh, they were just extra liquidity on the pump to get the copies. Well, the copy people are basically in like a no/low risk situation, essentially, if you're just holding both of them.
Right. And one more thing as well is like with these new systems and with the yield farms coming out, and even with Icosa and Hedron and all that kind of stuff, one thing that I kind of like to like talk about a whole lot and try and help people understand as best as I can is just compounding interest and like the exponential growth. So we're over here right now, right? We're still in the beginning of these systems, and I'm not sure how well you guys can read this, but basically this says that investor 1 starts at 25 years old. They put aside 5K a year for 10 years in a row, no more investments after 10 years. Investor 2 starts at 35 years old, 5K a year for 30 years until he reaches 65. And this person who started earlier, compounded earlier, is going to end up with more funds later on. And that's just a function of you got in before and you were able to compound before like the whole crowd came in. And this is what hex staking simulates perfectly, right? If you're in the beginning, like if you got in the beginning and you wait your entire 15-year HSI or a native hex stake or however you're doing it, you're going to see this play out in real time. And this is what we're going to show on my channel in real time is compounding interest playing out on both Icosa, Hex, on both chains, everything. And we're going to see in real time where your dollars get maximum value, because I think you're going to see a lot of investors potentially coming in 5, 10, 15 years down the line, right? Because you probably still have new onboards into Bitcoin. And I think having information like this from 15 years of data that I'm going to be like just plugging into these spreadsheets for new investors coming in, they'll be able to see where they got max value for their dollar over time. And yeah, like I said, like I'm not trying to ratio trade or like do anything crazy. Like I'm just sitting doing nothing. Now that there's both chains, I'm just putting out comparisons to see, hey, if you were to buy this token or this token, where would your economic energy go farther on a long enough time frame?
Very cool, Colin. No,
Yeah,
definitely compound interest is an eye opener. Go ahead, Blue.
I just think it's important to understand like what's happening on a larger scale. Like for me, the way I see this is y'all remember like the Mustang 5.0? It was like a certain body style and it had this crazy badass engine. Like my boys, when I was coming up in the game, they would goose that thing and they'd be just ripping 120 miles an hour down the road. So fast, such a lightweight vehicle, absolutely badass. All right. But that model, they revamped it and they revamped the old 1960s Mustang body style. And now all of a sudden it's like that classic Mustang look on a new car. And that thing exploded. And you have this killer badass engine and a lightweight, like almost race car for the public. And now you have this new, shiny, old style Mustang revamped. I feel like that's kind of what happened. And that new style is catching all the flair. All the attention is going to this new car model. It doesn't mean that 5.0 is not good anymore. That thing still rips. If you take good care of it, it'll crush. But everyone's eyes are on the new model. So I think the common person, is just looking at PulseChain as a new layer 1. And they're like, dude, it's a new ETH. It's a no-brainer. Let's get in on Pulse. So I think that's just what the common person is thinking right now.
I think on the the new thing too. One point I wanted to make, and I want to ask Dixon is, I think the biggest, and if you want to call it inertia, depending on how you view the perspective, but getting people. So if any other coin, if it was any other thing that didn't have this locking up for 15 years mechanism, all that, I think it'd be a lot easier for people to migrate if that was the case. The community decided to do and all that to the new network. But with Hex, there's people with stakes forever, man. And I'm not sure they slow down making them. So is that the biggest reason why eHex may stick around, is because people are just locked up and it makes no sense to, especially at prices like this, to in-stake?
I mean,
although they're still doing that
at the end of the day, and
really good point.
If someone wants to buy it, then yes, it's going to have a future. Here's what I'm not bullish on is, okay, let's say the buy pressure was coming in 50-50 on both of them. I think that's great. Do I think that's going to happen long term? No, I don't. I think 95% of the buy pressure, and this is where I'm speculating and not speaking from conviction, okay? that I'm speculating that I have a very high probability all the buy pressure is going to be coming in from new users on the PulseChain side. It's cheaper, new users generally have less money, etc. The money that's going to be buying on the E side is all basically arbitrage money that says, oh, I can buy more number of coins here for cheaper. And there's a good chance, there's a likely chance that whoever does value it like that can run out of money one day. And there's a good chance the ratio can just bleed forever. There's a good chance that can happen. But you know what there's not a chance of? eHex outperforming. So I don't want to be on the eHex train personally when there's no more upside, but the downside, it could have more downside. Like that doesn't add. I don't know why I would, like, I'm speaking from a new user standpoint. Like if Funding Gym recommended me to go buy eHex now, today, like I'm not telling everybody to go swap their eHex. Like the smartest thing you do is just hold on to both, and whatever happens, happens. Like you're safe. But like my argument would be like, I don't know if it's necessarily great that Funding Gym will send all of his users to the E side. And if that one does bleed against the ratio for a long time.
Do you think that there'll be more money going into Hex buying it in the future than there has been in the past? Talking about the new users versus people already here, that plays into this too, doesn't it?
After the short volatile first couple months of PulseChain, yeah, I do. I mean, but that's the thing. Like PulseChain is like the perfect way to get more people's eyes on it. It's the perfect advertising, basically, is like getting PulseChain. Oh, and here's another point I wanted to make. Like so one of the biggest proponents for eHex and pHex, I've seen, like, so Toby in chat rooms and stuff has been talking how he likes both. But then at the end of when we were questioning Toby, like at the end of it, what he said was, actually, what I'm telling all my new users right now, or all my new onboards and everything, I'm just focusing on PulseChain right now. I'm just focusing on Pulse. And I'm referring all the people to Pulse. Well, that's the exact reason why I said I don't want to be involved if there's no certainty of which chain is going to be the best. I'd rather own Pulse because of exactly what he said there. And I don't think that is healthy for Hex. If somebody like me that owns more than I did back in the day, and I'm not a staker. I don't stake my Hex. I sit on this stuff liquid. I'm not a most of the time. I'm not a staker, and I still own more Hex than I did on day one. Does anybody not find that like a little bit alarming that there might be other people that think the same way as me, to where they would just go into PulseChain rather than buy Hex? Because that's even where the people that love their Hex are sending their people. Like, to me, it's very evident right now. PulseChain is going to do really, really good.
Do you think that, I mean, so not staking versus staking is a great thing to take in the mix too, because, I mean, do you think a lot of the whales or people who own significant amounts of Hex that are staking, would they feel different, or would they say this and they wait a few years before choosing one of the Hexes if they both turned out okay? Like, is that something that plays in people's minds depending on if they're staked or not?
I know people that have hundreds of millions of dollars of Hex that are on the pHex side, staked out 10 plus years. Hundreds of millions are staked out 10 plus years, and they only want the pHex side to do good. And then I also do, I mean, in all fairness, I do know people that also have fat stacks of staked Hex that want both of them to do good. Like, social consensus is going to figure that out, but it's going to figure it out, and it's going to wreck one of the sides. And the person that's not going to get wrecked is Kong, who just holds both of them. So you can speculate. You can speculate and go the P side like me, or you can speculate and go the E side like someone else. One of us is going to be a loser, probably, unfortunately.
It sounds like the root of your perspective is that having two Hexes makes Hex more risky and less likely to go up.
I think it does.
Yeah, I think that's what I hear you saying. And, like, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. Hex was designed to be staked, right? Like, that's what it was designed for. It compounds its interest. It brings it back. You can then restake that and roll it over. It's like the opposite of a credit card charging you interest that compounds. It's the opposite. It builds your bag over time. So the way I see Hex is it's meant to be staked, but I do see people doing only one big long stake, and then the chart pumps, and then they're locked and they can't get out. So I think probably a staking ladder that gives you liquid funds along the way is, I mean, in my eyes, probably the best strategy. What do you guys think?
I've said it before, and in all fairness, like I said, I don't stake very much. I would have more money today if from day one of Hex, I would have staked everything 5 years. My yield would have outperformed where I have DCA'd out of the market, even though I DCA'd quite a bit up at the top when you're selling for 2 years. And that's the great thing. Like Hex, I can't stress this enough, that the stakes in Hex actually do save you from yourself. Like, I'm a pretty good speculator. I still get outperformed by Hex staking. So like, in all fairness, yes, you should stake your Hex. Me, I would do it the same way again, because it is, for me, it's more mental than anything. It's how I can sleep at night, knowing that I have access to my money. I can't sleep at night knowing that I don't have access to my money. It's different for everybody. So me, it's a personal choice. But I also do tell people I have been outperformed by staking.
That's a really good point, you guys. The first thing that I know as a coach is if someone's mental energy is not stable, you don't make as logical of decisions under stress. So it's a really good point to know, like, when you have your funds liquid, you can change it at any moment and you sleep better. So I get both sides, you know, and ultimately, like, I want everyone here to win. And I think just from the outside looking in, from like the new user perspective, the new shiny object and the new model of Mustang, or whatever analogy you want to use, is PulseChain right now. And I just did the PulseChain tour, and I got to meet with the most beautiful people I've ever met. It was just absolutely phenomenal, the energy in real life. And I want everyone to know on this stream, I am very bullish on PulseChain. I left even more bullish after realizing, oh, where we're at now in these charts, I'm good with. I'm okay. There's 2 years sell wall built up. There was a 2 year sell wall, okay? And that 110 million, we probably could have 100x'd from a zero. We probably could have done more, you know, if it's funneled all into that. But I think that there's reasons everything's happening the way it is, and we have to get through that 2 year sell wall. And I think there's going to be a point where sentiment flips. So ultimately, everything happening in the ecosystem, going to that tour, talking to all the people there, really getting a sense of like, oh, we're early. We've just launched. People are still figuring out where they're putting their bags. And like the best point I get from all this is that everyone's economic energy is divided up right now. And I think there will be a point where it settles down and we start seeing a clear winner, or a few clear winners. So I think we're just in discovery. And
so I have a question for you guys as well. Just like how we see sort of with the Bitcoin market right now, with the crypto market, we see kind of Bitcoin have its run up and then money flow into Ethereum and altcoins. Do you guys see that as a possibility for the PulseChain? Maybe one of the hexes, maybe it's pHex or eHex, or maybe both, outperform PulseChain in a shorter time frame, on a long time frame, but on a short time frame, and then money starts to flow into the other coins. Do you guys see that, or do you think that maybe just PulseChain all day type of thing?
For me, I have to look at the whales, right? So there's Hex whales with billions of tokens. Then there's PulseChain sacrificers with billions of tokens. Then there's PulseX sacrificers with billions of tokens. So you have these three groups of whales that have big bags. And if there's a huge buy wall, let's be honest, people are going to sell into it. And what happens when people with billions of tokens sell into a buy wall? That buy wall shooting up. And as they sell, they even it out and then eventually start turning it into a sell wall. So I think these whales are watching the chart, just viciously watching. And they're aware of what's coming in the bridge. The metrics are on chain. They can see, oh, 10 million, 50 million, 110 million. They're doing the math in their head, and they want to extract maximum value possible, and they don't want to incur slippage. So if these people with billions of tokens can see, oh, if I dump a big bag, I actually only make 500 grand. But if I trickle sell it and I just eat this buy wall up slowly, I could make $1 million. So I think we have to see what happens with these whales. And we have to understand that as they sell into our buy wall, it is going to stop X's. It's literally preventing us Xing as they do that. And there's going to be a point where they either buy back in or they stop selling and we rip. It's just going to be a matter of when that equilibrium is met, in my opinion.
So for my view, say your question again more time just so I can answer it exactly.
So I was just asking, do you think that just like how Bitcoin pumps and then money flows into Ethereum and altcoins, will we see something similar in the PulseChain / Hex ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I didn't think Hex could outperform PulseChain, I wouldn't own more right now than I ever have. I own more Hex now than I ever have in my life. I wouldn't be doing that if I didn't think it could outperform PulseChain. My debacle I'm in at the moment is it's my view, it's my speculation that it won't if there's two of them. So this is where I'm like a little bit concerned. I never wanted to have this conversation. I would have rather just seen the market play out and nobody really talk about it. Would have been great. But everybody started talking about it, so I just put my opinion in, you know. But I mean, that's just kind of how it is. I think yes, I do think that one Hex can outperform PulseChain though.
I just wanted to bring this up too because I thought, I mean, Funny Jim's had a lot of good commentary, just different points for why both, and I just wanted to see Dixon to speak to this as well. So 2 years of marketing about the founder community, stock split, horizontal scaling. I think this is interesting that probably the only person I've heard talk about it is if there was a migration, would PulseChain just be another ETH killer that never went anywhere? Is that the reason that both need to survive?
No. 100% wrong. I mean, okay. I don't really know what his comment is about the horizontal scaling to ETH instead of think we just want to become EOS. I don't understand that part, but here's what he's missing. All of these known ETH killers didn't have communities. 150,000 community members airdropped into the token or into the ecosystem on day one. PulseChain is like the only one that's done that. We were the #2 chain in volume in TXs in 3 days. Are you kidding me? That's really good. So we don't need to be an ETH killer like that. The narrative of ETH killers, I don't know, like it's kind of irrelevant to me. I want to see more. I don't care whose trading volume is. I want to see more. Every day I want to see more. And we're doing in 2 days, like Avalanche was supposed to be an ETH killer. It's doing pathetic loads of volume, $9 million a day. That's garbage. We're doing 130 with the community that just got airdropped into this new ecosystem. It's bullish as hell, in my opinion. So it doesn't have to be a killer. I mean, if PulseChain absorbed 5% of ETH's value, like user base, that's the most bullish thing ever. That's the best performing token in crypto if we absorb 5% of ETH. So we don't have to kill them. All we have to do is absorb some of it. And it's obviously not helping them that much because the network's unusable. I can't tell my friends to go there and do anything because all my friends are under $3,000 guys. So like, it's funny because I think Richard's a little bit disingenuous every time he says like, hey, we're here to help ETH. We're here to share its load. No, we're here to take some users. Let's not lie. We're here to take some, well, he needs to preach the game. He needs to do his thing. We all need to do our own thing. Like everybody has their own different messaging. Richard wants to measure gains from the very bottom. I think SAC price is probably a responsible place to measure gains, But
bro,
so
ETH down, didn't you see? ETHs are very cheap now. And is that a coincidence? PulseChain came out. I'm half joking. Actually,
entirely. I think it helps.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's a coincidence entirely. I think it helps some, but there might be other reasons also. I mean, the whole market, the trading volume of the whole market seems like it went down the last couple of weeks in general. So it might be a little bit of both.
What is there any liquidity number? Again, we're looking at the pulse here. Is there any amount of liquidity that would make you think, okay, eHex, pHex, there's going to be not a huge premium, but there's going to be a premium that's going to hold for a while. And this is going to be what it's going to be going forward. Is there any amount, like what would you need to see to be like, okay, I feel less risky being in Hex based on your perspective?
it's the parity thing. It's what a whale is going to do, and what people on chain are going to do. If I'm using these as examples, like somebody that's been around that has a good stack, somebody similar to Motley. I'm not saying Motley by any means, but I'm trying to think of names. If somebody does not appreciate their ETH side and they continue to sell that down and the price continues to get, it's really not even arbitrage because they're different assets. But let's just say the word arbitrage for lack of better terms at the moment. Like as long as it keeps getting arbitrage. So when I went to bed last night, it was a 17% discount. I wake up today and it's a 33% discount. Right now it's back to a 29% discount. Like if it goes down to 17% discount again, it's showing me that there's some whales in the ecosystem that, well, and I have to go look at the chain on this too, because I'm just speaking out of what's probably happened since I woke up and haven't looked, that it's probably a whale that is doing what Johnny Chaos or God Whale have shown or done, that, well, they're going to sell some expensive pHex for some cheap eHex. I don't want to be involved with that. If there is a bond like that, that's just, as long as there is a bond like that, I'm probably not interested. If whales are selling off their pHex for eHex, that's where I'm probably not interested. But if it just has its own standalone price, 50% off, 10% off, 90% discount, whatever it is, I have no idea. I'm using random numbers. As long as it's not what people believe is an arbitrary number to ARB, then yes, I'm interested. But as long as I see it as an ARB play, I'm less interested.
I don't understand the like it. I don't know if it's negativity, but it kind of feels like it, that you're discounting PulseChain's effectiveness of like removing network pressure and being a vampire. Like, I think there's genuine fact to that. You cannot deny that in 4 days we became the number 4 chain. You can't deny that in a week we're number 3, and a day after we're number 2. And then we saw Binance absolutely respond to us by creating a fake wash token. And then Hexicans find the on-chain data and publicize it, blast them on Twitter. And then all of a sudden, all these new coins that have been on BSC for a long time get all this new beginning. It's like that, in my opinion, is 100% a result of big players in the game watching PulseChain break records. Even our bridge is number 8 in the world. Like, there's online chain
nobody
metrics
can use
for that
it yet because they ain't got Pulsed for gas.
Yeah, but there's reasons for all this. And if you think outside the box, like, why did it get funneled the way it did? Like really, like, there's a 2-year sell wall. The fact that that bridge was funneled, the chart would have looked completely different if it was full blown board open and everyone had their stuff right away. There's game theory behind all this, in my opinion, and there's not idiots behind it. Some of the smartest people in the world are behind this chain, and it shows in the fact that we've pumped so hard, so quick. Every country all over the planet can go to Dex Screener and see within 2 weeks we hit the top of the leaderboard. There was a point where it was only Ethereum ahead of us. You guys realize what an accomplishment that is? That is one of the greatest accomplishments an L1 blockchain can possibly have, to go from 2 weeks to beat Binance. I do not see any negativity in that at all. And as many people as say, like, oh, we're not making an impact. No way. We got Coinbase dev, okay? People at Coinbase are watching us. That's the biggest crypto company on the planet. And he watched my video that got him excited, and then he did his due diligence. And I asked him, what was it that actually made you come here? And he said, I realized y'all are ahead of the curve. At Coinbase, they have to take online metrics and data and compile it, and then they have to create deals with people for token listings. Then they get them listed. It's like they're 2 or 3 steps behind. PulseChain is the cutting edge. And I want everyone to know, all these other blockchains have offered grants to builders. Look it up. It's right there online. Look up, are there builder development grants on other chains? There's $100,000 grants for people to build on other chains. Do we have that? Hell no, we don't have that. We have people choosing to be here to build on this chain because they see it's ahead of the curve. And I guarantee you, like, in my opinion, there's no doubt that we have helped take the ETH gas down. Look at ETH gas. It's way cheaper. Look at our volume. You cannot say that PulseChain going from nothing, 0.000, all the way to being the second blockchain in the world didn't have an impact. I don't get it. Like, I feel like we're absolutely crushing it. And we have whales sell pressure, y'all. There's people with billions of tokens waiting 2 years that are trying to recoup their funds. I think that's it. There's going to be a point where that dies out and we're going to freaking rip. I just see it like that.
Hey, who's your rant directed at? Is it directed at like Eric Wall or people that aren't happy with the price performance of PulseChain so far? Like, who are you directing at?
I don't understand it's really like the sentiment of what the impact PulseChain is having. I believe we're having an impact. I believe the top players see it. So it's directed at people who think that we're not having an impact and people don't see us.
I like 100% agree with you. And then I see comments like Lit killed Dixon's point there. Like I agree with you 120% there. So I don't know where we're disagreeing there.
Well, that was
I guess I'm missing some context or something, because like I agree with everything you said there.
On that, would like to ask Dixon too. So what going forward would be your ideal scenario? Like what do you think would be best for, I mean, your bags, community, like whatever you prioritize, like what Richard getting on stream and saying it's migration.
Price charts at the end of the day, the best price chart, the best possible price charts. I mean, that's really the only reason people are coming into crypto. Like, all of us care about decentralization and holding our own keys and all of that important stuff now. But nobody buying now gives a shit about any of that. Nobody buying now gives a shit about yield. They care about number go up. And the best onboard for number go up is the chart's looking the best.
Well, could you give us two scenarios? Like one where eHex, pHex, is close, is parity or close parity or something, and then the other scenario where it's only people, almost everyone's energy is focused on pHex. Like what are the best scenarios? Either one happening, but like what is your ideal scenario for either one of those happening? Like what is going to make things good?
In my opinion, if they both stay around and they both stay close to a parity number, like right now, essentially eHex just has a discount, rightfully so, for the more gas to buy it, stake. Like it rightfully so has a little bit of a discount right now. But as long as if that discount is where people believe the ARB number is, that's just where I tend to be more bullish on PulseChain now. So like that's what I say. Like when the messaging is split like that, I'd rather on PulseChain. But if the messaging was very aligned, because I want to go with the best chart. And I think PulseChain has a better chart as long as they both have that somewhat parity number, Yeah.
So
go ahead,
what do you guys think about like an army marching forward as an analogy, and we all have troops? Back in the day, it was all hex. So it was one unified force. Now we're on PulseChain. Now there's eHex, there's pHex, there's Ink Token. So there's PLS, there's PLSX. That's like multiple factions. What do you guys think? Like, do we all create a community strategy on a ratio of, if you have $100, put X amount here, X amount here, X amount here? Like, is there a consensus on what is actually the best for a message moving forward to get us in one direction of an army moving forward? Or are we just all going to have different factions running in different directions?
So I think Hart's Law is going to lift everything up when most of the buy pressure comes in on PulseChain. Like, it's pretty obvious to me that the primary buy pressure of all the Richard Hart tokens is going to become PulseChain, at least in the short term. Like, .eth Twitter handles are coming in. They can't come in yet because they don't have any PulseChain to make a transaction. It looks to me like the next wave of buyers is going to be PulseChain. That is, in my opinion, going to lift everything up. Like eHex is going to have a higher dollar value at some point. I agree. When it finds a bottom, if it hasn't already found a bottom, one or the other. It's going to have a higher dollar point. Same with pHex. It's going to have a higher dollar point. But just because it's Hart's law doesn't mean that when PulseChain pumps 20% in a day, it doesn't mean everything else pumps 20% in a day. That means Hex might only pump 8% in a day or 12% in a day. It might only do half. And when you extrapolate that over the course of an entire bull market, this is why altcoins and shitcoins on Ethereum, they're all correlated to ETH, but they run harder. But then you have to look at the downside. They also dump harder. So to me, like that's my thing. Like as long as there is animosity between the two and arbitrage between the two, it changes everything when there's a pretty clear winner that's going to be kicking ass for the next 2 years, which is PulseChain.
I think for me, I'm just waiting for these tokens to finally start appreciating and wait for the prices to come in, see what happens. And then from there, you can probably give like a good estimation for a new onboard, like, hey, contribute maybe 50% PulseChain, 20% Hex. But for right now, like, I don't want to like play these guessing games of like, I could see PulseChain heavily outperforming, but that doesn't mean that I'd want to go and like obviously take all my eHex and ratio trade it now for PulseChain. Like, I think the strategies for me, at least how I'm going to come up with it, I'm just going to wait for the charts to play out, see how those charts print, and then I'm going to come up with my sort of thesis from that, I guess.
Yeah, I think Richard will address this. I think he will, whether it's the next live stream or not. At some point, he's going. I know. I think that he will have to, for him, and he doesn't have to do anything, but I think he will see it healthy for the community to have some commentary on this one way or another, and that'll be interpreted one way or another, and it may just be in the middle.
Here's the problem I see is he's going to have a very neutral stance again that, if I had to guess, his stance leans one way or the other. I think the chance of him coming out and saying, hey guys, we made this to support pHex, I think the chance of him saying that is almost none.
Oh yeah,
because he's going to wreck people and vice versa. He's going to wreck people on either side. And I think that's why he's staying out of it. So it's not his responsibility to wreck the speculators. But yeah,
well, he's going to get the question a million times, and he's going to have to say again. It doesn't need to be clear. I think he's going to have to have something of like, you can't just keep. Can you imagine the chat? There's going to be 10,000 people, 5 or 10,000 people next time he gets on stream. And 10% of those questions are going to be like eHex or pHex, eHex or pHex. Like it's going to be. It's just there's got to be some kind of commentary. And I'm not saying it's a clear direction, but a commentary around it. And then
so when he gets asked that, and let's say he makes a comment that doesn't endorse pHex, but it leans towards pHex. Like he made a tweet the other day that said, look at all these communities that cannot afford to function on Ethereum. Just go look at that tweet. And like, I would say that tweet leans more towards the pHex side. It's saying like, hey, stop wasting your money to ETH validators. But when it's not a convicted answer, you can be an eHex guy and try to pull whatever you want from that also. So I thought it was hilarious when he pulled the ink farm off of pHex eHex. First thing, I wake up, the farm is pulled, and I see a pHex guy go, well, it's pretty obvious where his support is. And then I see an eHex guy also go, well, it's pretty obvious where his support is. And I'm like, what? Like, there's two people that have full conviction who's right here. Like,
well,
this doesn't seem right.
But they both have good points. They both have good points. All right. Like the pHex guy is like, okay, clearly he doesn't want there to be support for that or extrapolate whatever way. But the eHex guy is like, clearly doesn't want people immersing in staking or doing other bad behavior to hurt the ecosystem over there.
Right. But it's going to be really hard to get an answer out of him, I think. And like look like another breadcrumb that Furu Finance went on a tangent all of yesterday, and Richard follows him this morning. Like, I don't think Richard would follow him if he thought, like, I'm not saying Furu's right. I'm not saying I'm right. We're both speculating which one's going to be the better one. But at the end of the day, I don't think Richard would follow him if Richard thought he was completely full of shit. And then you go look at his comments, and 90% of them are, you're an idiot. you haven't been in Hex long enough. You've only been in here for a year. What do you know? And Richard follows him. So like Richard following him after that tangent of a day completely invalidates the aggressive, not debatable topics that he received in those tweets, in my opinion.
This is an experiment, y'all. Whoever does this is between a rock and a hard place for one basic reason. If you split chains and now there's two products, there's you know that musical chair game where you say something and it changes to one person to the next, and pretty soon the original message is totally botched. That's not the exact analogy, but I want you to think about that. Whoever splits chains and now has two products, if they tell people, hey, move over to this chain, I want all the economic energy over here, you have people with notifications on, following, waiting, and they're on it. And within 2 minutes, they've switched. Then you have people who a couple days later, they find out. Then you have people who are on vacation and they left their stuff and they're gone for a month. And they come back and they're like, whoa, what happened? The chart tanked. So because of that rate of information where not everyone's going to get the message, that's the rock and a hard place. If you split people over, there will be a percentage that get left behind. So whoever does this, it is really hard to keep the community all together.
I think that I don't even think Godwell even knows PulseChain launched. I'm just putting it out there. Again, tell me somebody if there's a transaction. I just don't think he cares. I think he's the guy he's rich forever, and he's like I'm just throwing it out there. That's what I'm talking about. I'm using that as fuel of like the whales have different perspectives than the crypto Twitter guy who's on there every day like I am. So anyways, I just want to I feel like that's an underrated point. But I got two other guys come in real quick. I want to wrap up here in a few minutes, but I didn't put Fox Mulder on here to support or deny that position, but I think that's interesting that I want to pose as well. Richard, eHex going away, would that hurt Richard's glory mission, right? Like he wants everything to succeed. Dixon, I think Dixon has a contrarian view on this. Or go ahead, Lit. Either way.
I just 100%. I think look, how many haters did eHex have? It just that they're going to tout on those points relentlessly. And it's going to look like it. And also whoever was left behind, whoever didn't get the message that the economic energy is switching, they're going to be like, dude, what happened? And there's just always going to be a portion of the people who are looking at it as a long-term store of value. They're staked. They might be 10 years out. And if Richard switches on them, they literally will feel betrayed, even though they got their copy. It's just human nature. Like you said, Dixon, people are in crypto to make money. So they see money on one chain. Even if it's duplicated, they're still going to want that money. It's human nature. So if it gets abandoned, there's going to be a portion of people who get hurt by it. And there's going to be a portion of haters who are like, told you, eHex sucks. I've been saying it for years. And they get to just stomp all over the point.
Before
right, but at the same time, the people that are going to get hurt are the speculators. The people that speculated that eHex is going to have value after the fork. Kong is not going to get hurt holding both, because what should happen is one should lose value, the other should gain value. So as long as you're holding both of them, you shouldn't be getting hurt. It's the speculators. Speculators take risk. And I'm taking a risk holding only pHex. I just believe that it's a much, much, much less riskier position than going into eHex right now. So like, yes, there is, I don't see a situation where somebody doesn't lose here, which is the unfortunate part. Let me just throw like Freddie said, like if Dixon thinks Hex will outperform Pulse, had he dumped his PLX and PLSX bag for pHex yet? Bruh, I bridged over lots of money, and instead of buying Pulse and PulseX, I bought Hex. That's how bullish I was. But I'm not, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm thinking this, there's other people thinking this, that I am less bullish after buying this stuff. I own more than I ever had. After buying this stuff, now I'm actually less bullish, because I did calculate it wrong. I thought that there was going to be more support for the P side, and whatever value the E side landed at, it lands at, you know? I did not think there would be this strong of a push for parity.
Ben Dubard and Neil for T-Shows. Welcome
What's
to
up,
the
bros?
show. You've
guys.
joined the last 10 minutes. Who wants to go first in putting their 2 cents in the debate of the you know what we're talking about? I hope.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, first of all, Dixon, good to see you, man. Whenever I see, I always appreciate your views, and I used to always watch your live streams, and I always think of you when I see the tuna packets. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, so I'm in the and lit. Good to see everyone. Lit Gains, good to see you, of course, and Hex Kong, nice to meet you, man. So I'm in the same boat as Hex Kong. I didn't do anything with my eHex. I'm literally just chilling. So this whole debacle has been kind of interesting. But me personally, I don't want to use Ethereum. I waited 2 years for PulseChain. It's finally here. It's awesome. I don't want to use Ethereum at all, and I wouldn't. And I'm same viewpoint as Dixon. I'm not going to tell my friends like to go buy Hex on Ethereum either. And even like whales, whales, I know people like they don't like the fees on Ethereum either. Like, why am I paying these fees? Why am I paying these high fees? So I lean more towards the pHex side of the argument, and I've listened to plenty of people on both sides. I've had people on my channel. If you watch my channel, and I just think it makes sense that the split buy pressure could hurt the price performance of both instead of just focusing on one. I think that does make sense. And I waited 2 years for PulseChain. So like, I don't know, why would I want to enrich these foreign miners, faceless, nameless people on Ethereum who are basically running a racket, jacking up the fees? Uniswap sits there and lies about Hex, like Dixon was saying. Why the heck would I want to use something like? Why would I want to use that when I have PulseChain here? So that's just me personally. And again, I'm coming from the standpoint of whatever happens, I'm chilling. Like I feel good with my Hex, PulseX, pHex. Like I'm literally just chilling. But to me, the argument I'm hearing from the people on the pHex side, I think it's a little more logical. And also Lit and Dixon, I think earlier Lit was making that point about PulseChain being like mega bullish to say that he thinks it will lower the Ethereum gas fees significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could.
That's
I didn't
all.
know where the context was there, but
sorry, bro. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I don't have a super passionate opinion either way, but I think the pHex side, like things that like Dixon are saying, Furu Finance's stream, Motley Investors Twitter thread, all that stuff made a ton of sense to me. It made a lot more sense to me than the eHex argument, which from what I've gathered is just like Hart's Law, forced parity, God whale, kind of like I don't fully grasp it. I
don't want to make an investment decision based on praying to God that God whale or Richard come and force parity. And I'm going to use Johnny as example because Johnny likes the parody narrative. What if, and this is all what ifs, like all we're doing is speaking in what ifs. I don't want to make an investment thesis based on praying to God, God whale or Richard force parity. So let's say that Johnny wants to force parity. Well, you're still going to run into the problem that there is groups of people. There's probably eHex people that don't value their pHex, but there's also pHex people that do not value their eHex. This is a tragedy of the commons. You cannot get around this. And the difference is which one has more. I personally believe, and this is my speculation, not certainty, just from people I've talked to, that there is people that do not value their eHex. So if the God whale or Richard or other whales don't step in, how long can they absorb people that do not appreciate one side? And so that's where like I don't want to be trapped in the uncertainty when PulseChain is so freaking bullish right now.
I would like to say that we only have 2 weeks of data to make these speculations, so it's awful premature for us to really step out and with any certainty at all and make speculations on price action and stuff, because
that's the purpose of speculation, though.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, it is. We're talking about something that we really have no good data to ascertain really good information and to make speculative plays, right? Because I would be very, skeptical myself to make big plays with my investment, like y'all saying. I agree wholeheartedly that, man, I don't want to make speculations based upon what ifs with other people's actions. That's and especially big movers like Godwell and Richard and anybody else. So I would be I err on the side of caution before I made any definitive plays with large amounts of money with either side in the whole thing. But that being said, at the end of the day, though, Hex is still Hex. It's a smart contract, runs by itself, and the only way though it's going to appreciate is if people buy it, and that's just a fact. And if nobody was going to buy eHex, then it's not going to go up, and it's just going to fade away. But if I'm not mistaken, though, there's a mechanic to draw people to buy it with APY. So if the APY is way higher on Ethereum side than on the PulseChain side, I would think that would draw people back over to seek better yield. At least that's why I understood the theory was when it was developed and created, and the future casting Richard did early on PulseChain.
I don't believe APY matters as much as community, or we'd be checking the APY over on the other networks often. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to make the POW and the fair case like, hey, this is what happened over there. This is what's going to happen here. But that is the conviction to me that the community is what matters, not the code. And if you get 10% better APY, there probably is going to be an APY number at some point that is worth it and that does find value. My case is the parity case, and I don't think it's good for price. But yes, the people might fire that one up just because they like the yield. But at the end of the day, I don't know how it doesn't bleed if the mad gains aren't there. Like, I don't know how people buy if the mad gains aren't there, because people are buying for the mad gains, not the yield.
There's probably both, right? Like, there's people who are more advanced that maybe have their money stacked, they own their properties, they're paid off, they're stable, and they just want consistent yield generation. But in general, I 100% agree. Like, people are here for the gains. That's what they want. And the community, like, what I've learned is, when I first started, I thought it was all about the tech, and I've flipped. I think it's all about the community. It's all about the community and the volume and the sentiment. And even in a downturn, when people are believing the community, like we've proved that with Hex and PulseChain, like, we're in a bear market. You said yourself, other communities are ghost towns. We're strong. We're stronger. We're doing tours. We're building. I think community is hugely important in all this.
I just want to point to this one before we wrap up too. Dixon, what do you think about the 10 million ETH versus 40K Pulse? That's an interesting point.
I mean, it's great, but in my opinion, the better onboarding tool is not shill eHex to these Ethereans who don't give a shit about us or Hex. The play is to get these ETH people into the ecosystem through Pulse. Like, that is the play. You make a Hex tweet, no one in the world is seeing it but Hex people. You go look at all the .eth Twitter pages that are shilling Pulse right now. It's a lot. Like, it's very obvious to me that Pulse is the vampire attack to get money into Hex, not the other way around. Like, we've had 3 years to try to get people to take us serious on Ethereum. I don't think that you're going to get a .eth person to buy Hex. You're going to get them to buy PulseChain because they are. I'm seeing it. And the only reason they aren't more is because they don't have gas money right now.
So
Interesting point.
I just put in the chat, y'all please verify this. Do not take my word on this. I was told through Telegram, and y'all know how that can be. But I believe the boys at Beetroot have created a functional bridge that anonymously transfers your funds and allows you to onboard native PLS tokens onto the system to have gas. Do not take my word for that. Look it up. Do your due diligence. But I believe I was told they beat PortalX to market, which would mean that allows users onboarded with PLS. But please look into that. Don't take my word on that.
Yeah, just dropped in the chat. Yeah, use your own risk, not verified, but could be interesting route as well.
Yeah.
As we'll say, let's go from the bottom to the top. And everyone just where can people find more about you, and any last words as we wrap up this very successful crypto and very respectful open mic today? Crypto Kong, what's happening?
Nothing much. Sorry, what was that question? Any last thoughts you were asking?
Yeah, any last words before? No, I'm never inviting you again. Just kidding. What do you want to? Where can people find more about your content, and what's your any last words on the debate, if you will?
So yeah, in terms of the debate, I'm just gonna see how things play out. Like, I don't really want to speculate right now. Sort of like I think the Tetra profile guy was saying. I don't want to speculate with 2 weeks of data. That's what speculation is for. Like Dixon says, like, you want to be here speculating now if you are going to. But I'm right in the middle. I'm neutral. I'm just not doing anything. I'm just seeing how it plays out. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I'm just going to document it all. If you want to see how that plays out, you can find it on my channel. It's just Crypto Kong on YouTube. That's it.
Gotcha. Neil for T-shares, aka Tetra Guy. What's up?
Yeah, guys. All right. So, I'm pretty much going to sit tight myself. I'm not making any big plays with Hex. So, I'm just going to see how the market plays out in the future. You can find me on YouTube at Deal for T-Shares or at Work for Crypto. And I'm on Telegram at Work for Crypto. I'm almost always in the Tetra chat rooms. I'm on the development team. So if you've got any questions, please come join us. We'll feel free to ask any questions and, answer questions for y'all and anything else. We have a snapshot about to happen here in a couple of days, but we'll move all our liquidity from Ethereum to PulseChain and launch a new contract over there. And we plan on launching our product on August 31st.
Which one's going to have more value, eTetra or pHetra?
There's not going to be an eTetra right now. It's all pTetra. So we're going to be pulling everything over. All the liquidity and the contract's going to be null and void when we pull.
How long are you giving people to migrate? You're giving them months, it sounds like.
No. I mean, the snapshot is about to happen. So in a couple days, all the money and tokens will be copied and brought onto the PulseChain side. So whatever you hold on Ethereum will be your PulseChain quote unquote copy, because we're doing our own snapshot. We're not using the old Tetra snapshot from the PulseChain launch, because that's a different contract address.
I have heard I jumped on a stream yesterday, Twitter Spaces, and what Tetra's doing for security alone, I'm so interested to hear more about that. It could probably help everyone in the community stay safe. It's pretty cool. Can't wait.
Yeah, I dropped a link in the chat, tetra.win, if people are interested. Very interesting project, in my opinion, as well. Ben Dubard, what's happening, man? What do you want to take us out on?
Well, I keep hearing this like 2 weeks of data, but we have a lot of data that shows Ethereum gas fees suck. Like way more than 2 weeks of that. We have a lot of data showing Ethereum not be very kind to Hex. The only 2 weeks of data we have is PulseChain, which I think it's already been smashing like all the expectations. We don't even have a working gas bridge. Well, maybe we do now, but like, people can't even fully use the network yet. Richard hasn't done his media tour, which I'm expecting he's going to do. Like, I think, I think there's a lot coming. I don't know. So I think this whole data thing, like, there's plenty of data showing why PulseChain is better. Why? Well, there's plenty of data showing why Ethereum sucks. The only data we don't have is, PulseChain is going to last, which why are we even here if we don't think that already? So yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at BenDubard and YouTube at BenDubard. Yeah.
Lit, what's happening, man?
What's up, y'all? I just want to clarify, like, I'm really not in the debate of what's better. Like, as a coach, I truly see the value of both, and I'm not trying to say one's better, but I will say on record, like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I made a video about pHex is going to be precious. And the whole point of that video is ETH gas fees are like a highway, 6 lanes backed up, and it's just gridlock. All of a sudden, this new fork happens, and it's a brand new highway, and people get to turn off of it and absolutely rip like an Autobahn, no speed limit. So in my opinion, like 2 years ago, I was like, dude, everyone who can get off is going to. They're going to want to get off of that highway. So like 2 years ago, I made that video. But I want y'all to know, I don't think eHex should die. I think it needs to stay alive for the narrative. But I think for a time being, it's probably okay that, you know, most people are going to funnel over. It's probably natural. It's a new shiny object. It's a new highway. There's no speed limit. The gas is way cheaper. There's so many benefits, plus the metrics of us ripping. So I'm in the middle of all of it. I'm not super strong one way. And I really just want everyone to know how important it is to have differing opinions. That's what makes us strong. Discourse is healthy, but I do want us working in one general direction as a community. So anything I can do to bridge us together and create one force of human energy, that is what I'm most bullish on. So whatever opinions we have, let's focus on the foundation that we are one community at the end of the day, because we will do 10 times better that way. So that being said, you can find me at My Life is Awesome, and my Twitter handle is litgains_gains, capital L, capital G. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate all this discourse, and I have mad respect for everyone.
Of course, man. That's why we're here. You know, we gotta figure out what our own truths are. And that's why I like having these conversations. Dixon, the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I think we've covered basically probably all of it. If you guys want, you can follow me on Twitter. I don't know if I'll do much posting anymore, but you can go there. It just kind of comes to a point where it's like, yeah, people like Johnny Chaos do a way better job for onboarding than I do. And I don't know how useful the opposing views are on Twitter and stuff anymore. You know, like I do acknowledge that Johnny probably brings in more people to Hex than I do via social media. I bring in some from real life, but social media he does a good job. And I don't think that funding Jim saying, well, why don't you just keep your views to yourself and promote what you want? And Johnny saying, I'll block anybody that is spreading fear about eHex. I don't think that's a good thing, because that's like the opposite of having a debate about this stuff. And so it's like you kind of come to a point. It's like, what am I doing here? You know? So I don't know. I would like to see this figured out sooner than later. But yeah, I didn't really in the first place want to be involved with the whole discussion. I would have loved if the market just decided in like 3 days and whatever happened. I would have loved that, man. But that's not where we're at. But no, this was a good discussion. I think I liked what everybody had to say here. I think everybody's pretty respectful, and yeah.
Can you post Bobby's comment?
Let's see.
I think that kind of sums up my sentiment. eHex is the GOAT, Rockstar. Yeah.
Well, really, Bitcoin was the rock star that got all this started.
That's true.
Maybe we should all just abandon this whole thing.
As what happens.
Yeah, let's not forget decentralization. You know, owning your own time, owning your own money, getting an exit from the system. All that. That's the first principles of crypto. Is definitely something to keep in mind. Dixon, like I said at the beginning, I love opposing views. I cannot feel like I make an informed decision without hearing the best arguments from one side versus another, whether I agree with them or not. So I really appreciate
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Of course. And like I said, I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from all of you here. And I think having an open discussion, I know, you know, when there's money involved, there's always the emotions that get involved and funding bags and all this stuff. But to me, like I'm not a money maximalist. I'm not. I do all kinds of stuff. I hemorrhage money for this community all the time. I don't even talk about it, and that's totally fine. I'm here for, you know, a bigger mission. Of course, I want to make money too, but I think what I'm most interested in is understanding, you know, the logical arguments out there, and then making a decision based on what we know. And I hope everyone has an open mind. I hope everyone can like benefit and use this in that way. Like use this to make your own decision, not to be swayed one way or another, but make your own decision from the data available. And that's what I try to make available.
And I would like to add to that, like the tweet I put out that got a lot of attention, I guess. That's exactly what I was trying to do. Like I wasn't saying, hey, I think this is the play. I just said, this is what I'm doing. This is what my friends are doing because they can't afford to be over there, period. Like that was just me signaling if the community is going to show support or the community is going to decide, like, I feel like that's kind of my responsibility, that people do care. Some people care what I have to say. I feel like I should say something, you know? So
please keep that up. Like, before we close out, I just want to point y'all to Google. Do you guys remember Google like in 2012 and 2006? Do you remember what Google was like? When you type something in and push enter, you got pages and pages of tons of different information. They were all differing. You could get a full spectrum. You could say stuff's a scam, stuff's the best ever, and in the middle. They've changed the algorithm, and the owner of Google said that that's a flaw, and they want all one type of answer. And that freaks me out, because if you go on Google now and you type something, the search results are completely filtered, and they're more like one type of answer. And that answer comes from one centralized narrative versus tons of opinions from all over the world. And that they changed their algorithm. It's factual. I really appreciate the old Google, and I want us to be able to have discussions and differing opinions. That's what makes us better, stronger, faster, more innovative. So I really invite all contrarians, all moon boys, all flutters. I invite all of us to really hash out what the truth is. And I got much love for all y'all.
Cool.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, I'll end on this. Just want to say one of my favorite quotes is, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend your right to say it. I think I apply that so much in my life on crypto Twitter as well. And it doesn't need to be a holy war. We can, like, everybody can make their own decisions. And I really appreciate the bet. And that's a functioning of a healthy democracy, healthy community. All that is, can you do that? Can you do that? And I think everyone should, think about that. If you care about censorship, consider that. But everyone, I really appreciate you being here again. I think it was a great stream. Chat could not address half of what you said, but I'm glad you said it. And you said a lot of stuff. Said a lot of stuff. It was a lot of spice, but you kept it simple for the most part. So I appreciate that. And everyone, Scivive and 5555. We are out.